Finally, I'm back. And so is Jon Snow, apparently. Jon Snow's like a cat. You know, he's got like 9 lives. I think he's on his 9th one. He did return. Melisandre apparently threw some magic mojo on him, and he came sputtering back to life. I believe she thinks she failed, but I guess she's going to be in for a surprise next week. I kind of thought he was coming back as well, because I got to think, if you're leaving an award-winning show on HBO, you've got a reason to, and we hadn't seen him in anything else, so that was my first clue. I thought it was going to be a situation where he was revived by the White Walkers, and maybe he was going to be turned into a White Walker zombie, and somehow maybe Melisandre was going to get him back to being himself again. Who knows? I'm curious to see if he's going to want to take some revenge out on Alliser, the gentleman who took over his position at Castle Black, and I just want to see him take Ollie over his knee and whoop the shit out of him, because, you know, stabbing your elders in the heart, it's just not a good thing for a young kid to do. Got to teach these youngins some respect. Speaking of respect, I like the scene with Jaime Lannister and the High Sparrow. This is the scene where Jaime and Tommen are grieving over the body of Cersei's daughter, who was killed by that one woman who, let me just be honest, I'm only now, and within the last season, being able to remember these characters' names, so forgive me if I don't remember everyone, but she was the woman who used to play on Human Target. But she has the 2 daughters who are the assassins. She killed her brother, who was king of that land. She killed him out of revenge for not doing anything when her brother, Oberyn, was killed defending Tyrion. Okay, anyway, they're in the room and they're standing over the body of Cersei's daughter, who's got the 2 creepy looking rocks on her face. Tommen goes off to go visit Cersei because he was a punk and was afraid to meet with her because the High Sparrow took over, who coincidentally appears in this scene, and Jaime's ready to take his head off, and the High Sparrow's like, hey man, do what you got to do what you got to do. It is what it is. None of us are worth this life anyway, so go ahead, handle your business. But he's talking like that because as he's saying all that, all of his people are entering the crypt where they are, and they're ready to get it popping, and Jaime's like, okay, maybe I should fall back, and High Sparrow gives him a look like, checkmate, bitch. Jaime Lannister is a character who, you know, he's the guy who pushed Bran Stark out of a window in the pilot episode, rendering Bran a cripple. He's the guy who is basically a general overall and he's his sister. This is not a character that I would typically like in any way, shape, or form. But over the last season or so, I have to give kudos to the writers because they put him in situations where I actually feel sorry for him. Oh, there's also the fact that he killed his king. But yeah, I'm actually kind of rooting for Jaime because, man, the Lannisters are starting to feel it almost as much as the Starks are. What with Cersei being in prison and having to do that walk of shame, and Jaime getting his hand cut off. You know, the Lannisters aren't in a rosy position either. Speaking of the Starks, the actor playing Bran Stark, who we see for the first time in a couple years now, I think in a couple seasons, man, I don't know what he's been taking, growth hormones or something, because that dude really shot up. He's still crippled, and now he's warning about an upcoming war. I mean, can you be more specific? Seems like this whole show is about different wars cropping up every which way. In other Stark news, we see Arya once again getting her ass kicked. I need someone to explain to me what this story arc is all about. I don't even know what's going on back at the place where she ended up, where they had all the faces in the wall and she was bathing dead bodies. I need help with that. Oh, there was a fountain where people would drink when they wanted to die. So not clear about all that. Please leave a comment, hook me up, explain that to me. But for some reason now she's blind. I forgot how that happened. The girl that was working at that place with the dead bodies, she's coming by and beating her ass with a stick every day, asking her, who she is, and she keeps saying the girl has no name. And then old dude who runs the place, he comes by and asks her some questions, and she still says the girl has no name. He says, yes, that's correct. Okay, now I'm gonna feed you and give you some clothes. And she's like, okay. I'm not sure what that's all about, so I'm gonna keep watching. If you understand it, please let me know. Good news for a Stark member. Sansa Stark, there's some light at the end of the tunnel for her. We saw in the previous episode, which was one of my favorite scenes, where Theon, Podrick, and Brienne, one of my favorite characters, they defend her from Ramsay Bolton's soldiers who have come to retrieve her. Speaking of that, Ramsay Bolton, is that dude a mother or what? He throws his loved one to the dogs. He's got dogs eating his mother-in-law and his stepbrother, and he kills his father. Yeah, that little thing too. A lot of psychopaths running around Westeros. I'm not sure which character I hate more, Joffrey, who's now dead, or this cat. I mean, I love that guy in Misfits, but here, he's kind of an asshole. But again, going back to that scene in the previous episode where we finally see Theon grow a pair of balls. I mean, not literally, as we all know what's going on there. Speaking of which, that makes 3 characters in this series that have no dicks, if I'm not mistaken. Overall, in just these first 2 episodes, I think Game of Thrones is just, they're firing on all pistons. One could arguably say the show's starting to get long in the tooth, but man, it's been revived as far as I'm concerned. So many story arcs that have been set up that I want to keep watching to see what develops. What's Jon Snow going to do now that he's been brought back to life? I mean, seriously, is he going to be cool with that? How is he going to be treated? Is he going to want to get revenge on everyone involved with his death? What's the deal with Melisandre? She's been revealed to be this 120-year-old crone. What's the consequence of that? Is she losing her power? She seemed to doubt herself when she tried to bring Jon back to life, even though she was successful. What's going on with the 2 dragons? We saw Tyrion, who was a brave character, I might say, and also one of my favorite characters of the show. We saw him go down and release those 2 dragons. They didn't burn him to death. Is he going to take control of them? Is Daenerys going to get free from apparently her solitude with the other widowed Khaleesi's? Will she escape from that situation and get the dragons back in her control so that she's a contender for the throne like everyone else in this show? By the way, those dragons are probably the best special effect I've seen on television. What's the next up thing Ramsay Bolton's gonna do? Will the Knights of Castle Black and the Wildlings come to a truce? Man, I keep saying my favorite character, but yeah, Sir Davos. I mean, that dude is dope. He was ready to ride or die for Jon Snow, as was all the other guys under his command. I hope those 2 sides do form a truce because those giants are cool. I want to see more of them. So yeah, I'm definitely hooked. I'm going to keep watching. And that's the martini.